Okay, today I'm going to talk about the problem and how we got here. In our modern culture, we're generally overweight. But way back in the 1950s, when an increasing number of heart attacks became a big issue, a scientist named Ansel Keys had a theory that heart disease was caused by too much fat in the diet. This led to the eventual publication of the 1980 Dietary Guidelines for Americans. An entire generation of people grew up believing that fat was evil and was to be avoided as much as possible. And as history would show, this theory was not grounded in solid research and has since been quietly dropped as the leading cause of heart disease. As a matter of fact, in 1997, Ansel Keys, that same scientist whose theories about dietary cholesterol and heart disease first warned us to stay away from meat and eggs, he acknowledged there's no connection whatsoever between cholesterol in food and cholesterol in the blood. None. And we've known that all along. And yet, the bad reputation of dietary fat continues to live on in our beliefs and our practices when it comes to fashioning our eating protocols. An unintended consequence of the advice to decrease fat in the diet was a huge increase in added sugars and ultra processed foods. Butter and meat were out, and gummy worms and rice cakes were in. This increase in sugar and ultra processed foods resulted in an epidemic of obesity and type 2 diabetes. In the 1950s, most people were relatively slim, and type 2 diabetes was a rare condition. Today, in the United States, over three-fourths of adults are overweight, over 39% of whom are classified as obese. Why? If calories in versus calories out is a legitimate predictor of weight gain, why can't sugar calories just be substituted for fat calories? Why does the move more, eat less advice of most medical professionals not work? Well, a short version of the explanation of why we are an obese nation is that obesity is a hormonal imbalance, not a caloric one. Dr. Jason Fung writes, the hormonal problem in undesired weight gain is mainly excessive insulin. So, how does excessive insulin enter the scene? Excessive insulin is the result of too much sugar in the diet. I have included a section in this module with more information on the role hormones play in contributing to weight gain. Hormonal imbalance plays a huge role in weight gain, but it's not the only issue. In our current culture, our lives revolve around food. Social events are focused on food and drink. We believe that 3 meals a day with snacks are essential ways of eating. We believe that huge portion sizes are normal. We've lost sight of what we really need when it comes to nourishing our bodies. Another factor is psychology. We are not taught to manage our emotions. Therefore, we don't know how to cope with discomfort and struggle. As humans, we respond to life from a motivational triad. We seek pleasure, we avoid pain, and we reduce effort to do these things as much as possible. Food marketing takes advantage of our desire for pleasure with the least amount of effort. Overeating has become a way to avoid pain and seek pleasure. It's socially acceptable to buffer with food to make us feel better. The way our brains are designed is another facet of the problem. Eating is necessary for our survival. When we eat, a neurochemical, dopamine, is released in our brain, and that causes us to feel pleasure. When we feel pleasure, we develop a desire to repeat whatever activity gave us that pleasure. Eating a steak or healthy fruit gives us a little pleasure, which creates a desire to seek out these things and develop a habit which is vital to our survival. The problem happens when we encounter ultra refined, ultra processed foods. When we eat added sugar and ultra-processed foods, our brains release a huge amount of the feel-good neurochemical dopamine, and we get huge amounts of pleasure. Our brains are tricked into believing that this sugary, ultra-processed food is very important for our survival. Our desire for these foods increase. The more you do something and the more you practice something, the stronger the corresponding neural pathways become. Eventually, we get so good at it that it becomes an unconscious habit. This is why we often feel out of control and as if we're eating against our own will. The great news is that we can change these pathways by interrupting them and replacing them with new ones, by changing our actions and denying the unhealthy rewards. To summarize, our overweight problem is a perfect storm of faulty nutrition information, education, an imbalance of hormones in our bodies, our ability to process emotions without buffering with food, and our very efficient brains. So what's the solution? Well, I have the solution in the next video. Talk to you soon.